Hi, my name is Daniel. I work in communications for NatureMade, and thank you for joining us for our second video in a new series that looks at different areas of human health and the important role that nutrients play in supporting those different areas. So this is actually the second part of a conversation we started last week around the immune system. Last week, we really kind of provided the basics in terms of what is the immune system, how does it actually work, and we just barely touched on different ways to support it. This week, we're really going to dive into specifically nutrients, which nutrients and what do they do, as well as kind of dive into some more options for us in terms of how to support our immune system year-round. Joining me again for the conversation is Dr. Susan Mitmesser. She is the head of scientific research for NatureMade and its portfolio of products, as well as Nourish, which is our new personalized vitamin and supplement subscription service. So welcome, Susan.
Hi, nice to join you again, Daniel.
I know, it's good to see you. So you talked about, last week we barely touched on nutrients. But the best way to probably start this conversation, maybe give a refresher and just let people know, what are the nutrients that support the immune system?
As we discussed last time, the nutrients that are really helpful in the immune system are vitamins A, D, E, C, and zinc.
Okay. So do all of those nutrients are they kind of interchangeable when it comes to supporting the immune system, or they do different things?
They actually do complementary things. So there are a couple that act similarly, but they all have a very specific role in immune function. Can I give you an example?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. So vitamin C and E are antioxidants. So vitamin C is a water-soluble antioxidant, and vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant. And how the antioxidants work and help in the immune system is really remember last time we talked about the guards, and an invader gets past the guards, and then you have and that's the innate immune system, and then you have the soldiers within the adaptive immune system that are really fighting that invader.
Yeah.
Well, in the adaptive immune system, the soldier is producing things and helping develop white blood cells, as an example. And those white blood cells produce something that kills off the invader. Well, if that chemical that's being produced by the white blood cells sticks around after it kills the invader, then it starts to harm good cells. And so antioxidants actually engulf this chemical and neutralize it. So you can almost think of and picture Pac-Man. So you have the antioxidant being Pac-Man, and it's gobbling up and neutralizing this chemical so that it doesn't harm the good cells. So that's what vitamin C and E do. And we also have vitamin D.
Yeah.
Is one of those nutrients that is super helpful in the immune system. The receptor for vitamin D is actually located on almost all immune cells. So what that tells us is that it's involved in so many different functions within the immune system because the receptor's there for a reason. And vitamin D helps regulate and enhance the response of the immune cell. So it actually, think of it as really bolstering them up and making them more productive when they need to fight that invader. Vitamin A is heavily involved in the growth and development of the immune cells themselves. So think of white blood cells, and vitamin A is involved in making sure that we have enough robust white blood cells to do the fighting. And finally, zinc. Zinc is quite protective of the immune cells to make sure that they don't get damaged from oxidative stress. So basically that means that the white blood cells are armed. Think of it as almost the armor, so the white blood cells can do their job really well. So it helps protect those white blood cells.
Interesting. I didn't know that about vitamin A, actually. I've always thought of it as like in terms of, sort of eye health.
Yeah. Yeah, vitamin A is a really interesting vitamin involved in the immune system, to the extent when it was first discovered, it was called the anti-infective vitamin. So the discovery of vitamin A is really interesting, but and the reason it was given that name initially was because of its involvement in the immune system.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Wow. Look at that. I learned something.
Yeah, a little history there on the discovery of vitamins.
So, okay, so that was really helpful. So they all do different but complementary things. So it's sort of it's almost like a machine, and all those sort of different moving parts, and everything has a purpose. What is the best way to get those nutrients into your body?
So I always like to start with food first. So
Okay.
let's think about foods. Foods are the best way to get all the nutrients in our. It may not be practical. So, but from a food standpoint, vitamin C is very heavy in, think of citrus fruits. So lots of oranges, grapefruits, berries, even so strawberries, tomatoes, but even broccoli. So vitamin C is very robust in those foods. Then we have some vitamins that are more found in animal products. Like vitamin D is found primarily in fatty fish, cod liver oil, egg yolks, but also remember that in the US, our milk is fortified with vitamin D. So milk can also be a great source of vitamin D. Similarly to vitamin D, zinc is found in a lot of animal products. Think of this as shellfish. So oysters, crabs are great sources of zinc, but also other meats such as beef, turkey, and pork are great sources of zinc. And E is found in nuts, seeds, grains. So peanuts, sunflower seeds, almonds, so peanut butters and nut butters, but also apricots. Apricots are a great source of E.
Interesting.
And then vitamin A, as you highlighted a minute ago, a lot of people think of it being primarily in carrots, which it is, but think of things with very robust colors. Peppers, dark leafy greens. It's also found in cheeses and eggs as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay, wow. Well, so this kind of bleeds into the next question, because, what is how we support our immune system from a nutrient point of view? Is that based on the individual in terms of what's right for each person's body? And what happens? Answer the first part of that question.
So think about the foods I just mentioned. There were a couple of foods that I mentioned that had more than one of those nutrients. So egg is an example. Egg is a good source, a great source of vitamin D as well as vitamin A. And so if I have an egg allergy, as an example, and I'm eliminating eggs from my diet, that could, and I'm not getting those vitamins or those nutrients from another source, that could impact me getting those vitamins in my diet, and therefore could have an impact on my immune system. Another great example is probably more widely spread is just the inception of like vegetarianism. So a lot of the sources I mentioned were from animal sources. And so I always recommend that people do a bit of self-reflection. Think about your diet, your environment, your lifestyle. If there are certain things you are eliminating, an entire food category as an example, cutting that out of your diet for whatever the reason, an allergy, a health concern, or simply a food preference, you need to reflect on that and say, okay, what is that category of food supplying me, and am I getting those nutrients from a different source? And if not, that's when you need to figure out, okay, I need to actually supplement my diet with something other than eggs, as an example.
Right. So that does kind of speak to the fact that what you talked about self-reflection. I think that's an interesting phrase because it sounds like it kind of ties into this idea that everyone's a little different just from a sort of physiological point of view, right? So it's not like everyone necessarily. How do you determine what is the right sort of like nutrient mix when it comes to making decisions, not just about the immune system, but other areas of health as well?
So you need, well, we'll use the immune system as an example because I think you can apply this to other body systems as well. But so everybody needs those nutrients, A, D, to have a very well-functioning immune system. So we're not different in that aspect. Sure. Where we are different is where we get those nutrients and how we get those nutrients. So that's where the self-reflection comes into play.
Okay.
And don't forget, vitamin D is an example you can get from the environment too. So your body can actually make vitamin D if you are out in the sun. For somebody like me, who I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm quite pale and I burn quite easily. And so, I'm not out in the sun on a regular basis. So I'm definitely not getting vitamin D from the sun. Right. And oh, by the way, if I'm a vegetarian and not taking in some of those sources that come from animals, I may actually not be getting a heck of a lot of vitamin D at all. And so that's where it becomes very individual based on your lifestyle, your environment, and your food preferences.
Okay. So it's sort of like everyone needs the same nutrients to support the immune system. It just really depends on your lifestyle in terms of how much of what you need and based on where you're getting it. So it's kind of, that's where the self-reflection, I guess, would come in, right? And that's where, like, to your point, you're not out in the sun. Maybe you're not necessarily eating the foods that are really high in D, therefore you're probably more likely deficient. I mean, actually, most of the population is deficient in D. So, it's a safe bet that none of us are getting enough D. But, in terms of those other nutrients, it really depends on what you're eating and what you're doing in terms of your lifestyle.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. You've got it, Daniel.
Awesome. Well, this was really helpful. I think this is a wonderful complement of kind of that general overview last week and just getting really into sort of the details on all the things that happen in our body, all the amazing things that nutrients do, but also the things that we can do in our daily life that will help sort of support our overall health, not just our immune system. So thank you so much for joining us and taking us through this adventure through the human immune system. And if you guys are interested in more videos, we will be putting more out. If you have any questions for us, feel free to DM us directly or just put it in the comments and we'll either address it in an upcoming video or we'll just answer it directly. Thank you. And thank you, Susan. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It was great. Bye. Bye.